Let's look more closely with this with the policy researcher Alex Petropoulos. Alex, good morning.
Good morning.
The Times has got lots of details, and there's all sorts of questions still, of course, from that air crash that was so tragic. What are the questions that are outstanding there?
Yeah, and it's really sad to wake up or to go to bed, see that sort of story. Some of the questions that still have to be answered is attribution of blame or attribution of learning, I guess, is the way to frame that when it's a plane crash. It's less of who should we blame for this, it's more how can we learn how to make sure this doesn't happen again. And currently, it's unclear whether this is on the hands of, do we need to better train pilots? Was this a mistake made? Were there actions that could have been taken given the physical realities of the situation to treat the situation better? Or is this, a mechanical issue that there just was no way around? Or, is this an issue that stems from the layout of an airport and there was nothing the pilots could have done, and this was, an accident waiting to happen from the airport's physical layout? We just have to wait and see. But all of those, how you respond really depends on answers to a lot of those key questions.
Yeah, there's a lot of scrutiny about the concrete that it so horrifically crashed into. Let's turn to this story on the front of the Times: rising toll of young adults too ill to work. Tell us what that's about.
So, we've seen this story quite a few times already, but this is about the fact that the number of young people claiming to be suffering from long-term sicknesses, whether it's post-COVID, long COVID, or whether some other ailment, has massively risen since the pandemic. And in fact, what's interesting here is that the UK's number of young people and number of people claiming this has risen out of line with how other countries have gone. So this is a UK outlier situation. Other countries saw a little bit of increase in economic inactivity due to COVID, but then after COVID, they bounced back. Everything was pretty much back to normal. The UK seems to be really struggling with this recovery, which makes you think that, there is some element of ill health, but the actual root cause of the problem is probably more of the incentive system that our benefit systems create. And I'm not necessarily saying that you have to get rid of it, but it's when you've got a system where you have a binary, where you say, look, you can either do no work and you claim this benefit, or you have to lose it completely if you want to do any work. It's creating the wrong set of incentives. You need a more granular, more gradiented approach where you can sort of ease people back into work and say, okay, are you going to work 10 hours? Are you going to work 20 hours? Are you going to work 30 hours? And we're not going to immediately take everything away, because in the current system, you're better off doing nothing. Often, the incentives are set up in such a way that doing the amount of work that you'd be able to will leave you worse off at the end of the day. So people aren't necessarily being greedy, they're just making the decisions that the system incentivizes them to do so.
New Year's resolutions are on a lot of people's minds, and there's some stark figures out about the harm that even a single cigarette can do to you.
Yeah, the Guardian has a story out today. It's essentially saying that cigarettes are twice as bad for you as we thought they were. This is a pretty common article to see around New Year's time. I'm unsure what effect it has on whether people quit. People will make that decision on New Year's, decide to quit, but it's about making it easy for them to stay quitting. And when I see stories about smoking, I think to my friend groups, because I've got friend groups in different countries. My friend groups in Eastern Europe, in the Mediterranean, they're all prolific smokers. My friend groups, young people in the UK, none of them smoke.
Do they all vape?
They all vape, but at the very least, we know that it's far less harmful than smoking. So it's about creating the right environment where you can make that switch, or I guess where you don't feel the need to have a cigarette if you need that nicotine hit. But I think there is some element of perspective needed there. Wait, I look at these other countries that are just plagued by people who are just smoking, not even vaping. I'm like, well, we've come quite far actually. It's a lot less of a problem than it used to be.
Yeah, and there's still, I think there's still plans sort of in play as to banning it, phasing it in, so that younger generations won't get the chance to smoke in this country at all. Let's have a look at this another sort of disturbing statistical story of people who, for whatever reason, are driving the wrong way up the motorway.
Yeah, this is a bizarre story to see. You know, the numbers we're talking about aren't massive. You know, they're talking about around 800 incidents this year, but this is an increase over previous years. And when you look into the numbers, you know, there are a few different breakdowns, a few genuine accidents, and you fix those with signage. There are a few cases of people coming off ferries, maybe they're visiting from France and they drive the wrong way. And, you know, we fix that by putting signage in places closer to ports. But then actually a significant number of these wrong driving incidents is the case of criminals essentially blasting it down the motorway and choosing to drive on the wrong side of the street to evade police. You know, when it comes to crime, I think that you have to take an approach and you have to believe the fact that actually most of these bad incidents are caused by the same few bad people. And, you know, they've got this power law distributional effect where if you really focus on getting the top 10% of offenders, I think that the statistic is something like the top 10% of offenders cause 50% of all crime. And so if you focus on that top 10%, you can actually really solve the problem.
Well, that would be nice to stop people driving the wrong way up. I thought it was sort of maybe to do with sat-navs, that our sort of slavish desire to just follow wherever it tells us to go, even if it seems, you know, obviously hazardous. If it says go right, you go right.
Yeah, you know, that there might be something there, and there's something around like our culture of how we drive. I guess in my mind, I'm a little less worried about this because you maybe take a bet into the future and say, well, you know, if we have driverless cars 10 years down the line, it matters a lot less, doesn't it?
It does.
We can trust them to solve this problem, or at the very least, if not driverless cars, you know, more intelligent cars that, you know, yell at you if the car notices, hey, buddy, the arrows are pointing the other way. It'll yell at you a bit.
Yeah, exactly. The Telegraph is, along with other papers in the Times, reporting on yet just more tragedy in the Channel.
Yeah, so there's a story here about, tragically, a boat full of migrants. An incident happening in French waters where migrants tried to get onto a boat that was already full, and many of them falling into the ocean and many of them drowning. It is, you know, the worst case of drowning incident in the Channel since a few years ago. It's a very sad story to see. There's nothing much that can. Yeah.
No. It's just the sort of, it's the relentlessness of it that's sort of so depressing. Just before we wrap up, Times advice: how to avoid the red wine hangover. This is critical.
Yes, especially as we head towards New Year's. So there's this research that's come out, and it suggests that there's this one chemical within red wine that causes a headache. And I'm quite excited about this because I'm quite excited about the idea that we can move towards alcoholic beverages that still give you all the good stuff with less of the bad stuff. Now, this is, you know, early days research. Maybe within 5 years, within 10 years, we'll have these miracle alcoholic drinks that give you a buzz but don't give you negative downsides. Until then, I think we're left with only just some advice to drink water in between your glasses, to not drink before, up until the point where you go to sleep, to, you know, stop a few hours before, and to drink with some food in your stomach. But I guess an exciting note is to think about, you know, 5 years down the line where we have products that allow us to have both.
Alex, thanks very much indeed.